Reflexive Verbs Part 2 Past Participle Agreement with FrenchSpanishOnline.com. Reflexive verb, these verbs have several names. You can say reflexive verbs, pronominal verbs, and etc. Actually, they are verbs with se at the infinitive form for like se laver, s'écrire, se lever, etc. To get the passé composé with this reflexive verb, there is only one auxiliary verb. We use the verb to be. We don't use the verb to have to get the passé composé with reflexive verb. But the tricky thing it is that this verb to be acts like a verb to have. Let's take an example. She washed herself. We say elle s'est lavée. Okay, you could say it's the verb to be, so there is an agreement between the subject and the past participle. The subject is feminine, so we add a e. Okay? Wrong, wrong, wrong. To understand the agreement, you need to say, to transform actually your sentence elle s'est lavée in elle a lavé elle-même. We will see why and how to understand it better in a few seconds. So you need first to revise the lesson about the agreement of the past participle with the verb avoir. Okay, there is a lesson for that, past participle agreement. But let's summarize this that lesson. For the verb using avoir as an auxiliary verb, for the passé composé, there is an agreement between the past participle and the direct object, but not the subject. The direct object when it is before the verb. Take time to revise this part, this video. But let's take some example. Elle s'est lavée. Okay, elle s'est lavée. We can say elle a lavé elle-même with the verb to have. Here we have our direct object, but in this sentence the direct object is after the verb, so there is no agreement. But in the first sentence, elle-même becomes s apostrophe. So s apostrophe here is a direct object and is feminine. Where it is before the verb to be. So for this reason, elle s'est lavée, we need an agreement e. Okay? So the agreement is with the direct object when this one is before the verb. Okay? Let's take another example. Elles se sont amusées. Elles se sont amusées. Again, we could say elles ont amusé elles-mêmes. So in this case, of course, you understand that the direct object elles-mêmes is after the verb, so here there is no agreement. But elles-mêmes becomes se, so here se is a direct object, it is feminine, and it is before the verb. So there is an agreement EES. Okay. More example. The rule does not work with indirect object, and that's the point. You need to know when it is a direct and when it is an indirect object. Let's take this example. Elles se sont parlé. Here, as you can see, no agreement. Why? We could say elles ont parlé à elles-mêmes. Here, because of this little word, this preposition, you understand that elles-mêmes doesn't come directly after the verb, but we have this preposition. For this reason, we say that elles-mêmes is an indirect object, and there is no agreement with indirect object, just with direct object. So in our sentence, actually, elles-mêmes becomes se here. Se is feminine, okay, but it's an indirect object. So for this reason, even if it's before the verb, there is no agreement. Elles se sont parlé et. Elles se sont serrées. More tricky. Elles se sont serrées. So they have hug. They had hug. Elles se sont serrées. So we could say again, elles ont serré elles-mêmes. So here, no difficulties for you. Elles-mêmes is the direct object. As you can see, it comes directly after the verb. And in this sentence, of course, after, so there is no agreement, but elles-mêmes becomes se. Se is a direct object. Se is feminine plural. Se is before the verb, so there is an agreement. We can follow our rule with no problem, EES. But now, elles se sont serré la main. They shocked actually their hand. Elles se sont serré la main. We could say elles ont serré la main à elles or entre elles. So elles here, because of this preposition, is indirect object. But actually there is a direct object in the sentence. Elles ont serré la main. Here, of course, the direct object is after the verb, so there is no agreement. But here, ce, what it is? Ce is elle. Elle becomes ce, and elle, we said that it is the indirect object. The indirect object, so there is no agreement. The direct object actually is here, la main, placed after the verb. For this reason, you really need to know where is the direct object and where is the indirect object. If we say elles se la sont serrées, to transform la main in a pronoun before, in this case, we can add an E at the end of serré, just a E, because la main, it's only one, it's a singular word. Okay? It's not very easy to understand. I agree with you. As you can see, even if it's complicated, it's easier to understand if you mentally use the verb to have instead of the verb to be. And of course, you need to know your prepositional verbs in French to check if there is a direct object or an indirect one. You need to practice, of course, to understand better this part. Let's speak now quickly about a third category of pronominal verbs. Those verbs actually that cannot be used without se. S'enfuir, for example, to flee, it's a proper verb. The verb enfuir does not exist in French. We say s'enfuir all the time. Se souvenir, the same thing, to remember. Souvenir is not a verb, the verb is se souvenir. So all these verbs have an agreement. Elles se sont enfuies, es because it's feminine. Ils se sont souvenus, s because it's plural and masculine. So in this case, for this third category of pronominal verbs, there is an agreement between the subject and the past participle. Okay, c'est fini. Not really easy. If you want to take time to revise the lesson, go to the website FrenchSpanishOnline.com magazine and assimilate all the information. Thank you for watching this slide with me. If you have questions, of course, you can write to me. No problem. I will be happy to help you. Au revoir.